Good evening, folks. My name's Zach, also known as Arclight Miniatures. Welcome to the show tonight, The Pale Horse Rides Part 2. Gonna hop over to the painting desk shortly. We are gonna start with a continuation of the work that we were doing last night on the Atlas. I think that'll be fun. We're gonna do some two-tone canopy work on the eyes. So that's really the primary portion of the cockpit. We're gonna get those painted up. It's gonna look pretty nice and spooky, especially with the white, the dirty white paneling that we did on the face. So it'll look good. After we finish that, we're gonna finish off with some weathering effects, just kind of like some scrapes and chips and scratches and stuff like that on some of the armor paneling. I'm gonna do some like very basic effects to kind of give the indication of material being gouged through to through the paint to the material below. Some basic shadows and stuff like that over deep gouges. After that, finish off with a little bit of streaking grime on just a few areas. I'll show you folks how I use that stuff just for some quick little spot weathering. Looks really good when it's done properly, so we will do our best to do this properly. After we finish with the Atlas, we'll move on to the infantry that we were working on during the first half of last night's stream, and then from there we'll finish up all of the bases on them, and we should be done within this 3-hour stream. I really don't see the canopy on the Atlas taking more than like a half hour, probably at most. And then kind of some of the other weathering effects won't really take too long either. They're kind of organic and fun. It's always kind of, honestly, one of my favorite steps is doing weathering, so should be pretty good. Let's hop over to the painting desk right away here. Okay, I do have a fan going on in the background here. I do have NVIDIA broadcast running at the moment, trying to do some black magic voodoo to my audio to cancel it out. Just let me know in the chat if it sounds okay. I might sound a little bit robotronic, but yeah, let me know. Let me know how it sounds. Okay. Boom, jazz hands. Okay. Got the Atlas here. Go ahead and zoom in. You can see on my palette I've got some colors already pre-selected. I did change my palette paper. A lot of the paint that was on there just kind of dried in place overnight. I tend to leave my lid not completely on my wet palette just to allow a little bit of breathability. That way I don't get like mold build up and stuff like that. So some of the paint's dried out, but totally fine. Wet palette's not really meant to keep your paints going for days on end. It's more so just for keeping your paints going during your painting session. Kind of one of those misconceptions I think a lot of people have. Pretty happy with how this thing looks so far. We're going to go ahead and start on the canopy. I'll show you what I'm doing here quickly on the palette. Firstly, so I'm actually going to go ahead and use my number 1 brush right now. This is my number 1 Ammo by MIG Premium Mark Linsky. Super good brush. Really like these brushes. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of this crimson. It's a chaotic red from Army Painter. I'm gonna grab a little bit of the blue that I'm using. That's intense blue from Vallejo Model Color. I'm gonna kind of mix it a little bit more over here by the red, and this is giving me like a very dark, like indigo color, kind of like a purple indigo. Go ahead and take the puck off this. Warwolf 22, hello, hope you're doing well. Samesies, buddy. I'm doing pretty good here. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly fill this whole area inside the eye with that color. The entire thing. Corner to corner, essentially. It's very dark, and I've got it kind of thin, so it's not super noticeable. Although with the two eyes side by side, you can kind of tell. Kind of tapping this in, because again, I don't really have a lot of room for a proper brush stroke here, and I'm not trying to slob it up. Go ahead and rinse my brush quickly. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a light direction. So generally speaking, just for consistency's sake, I tend to do like overhead zenithal light source coming from kind of top right as I'm facing my miniatures. So if you ever see a lot of classic jeweling on my miniatures, almost always my white reflection dots are in like the top right hand corner. I just do that for consistency's sake. It's also because I'm left-handed. I just tend to always have, I don't know, my stuff kind of angled down to the left when it comes to my light reflections. So I'm going to keep with that here. So what I want to do is I'm going to have the blue be my top right-hand color, kind of reflecting some sky color. And then I'm going to have red in the bottom left quadrant of both of these eyes. And that's going to be kind of like the internal glow color from the canopy, as well as maybe reflecting some ground color on there. So I'm going to go ahead and load just a little bit of paint onto my brush. I'm going to grab the red first. And I'm filling in a very small area here. I'm going to go ahead and offload just a little bit of that onto my fingernail. Whoops. A little bit too much paint loaded onto my brush. That's okay. I'll tidy that up just with a little bit of black around the edges. That's one thing I tend to do a lot, is I have like bold black borders around all my canopies and stuff like that. Whenever I have like deep recesses like this, I kind of paint the inside of the sides black. I just find it adds a little bit of extra sense of depth. And having that extra black around there just kind of helps delineate the border between the canopy and the rest of the paneling. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that intense blue, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in the top right. Trying not to get my head in here. Just going to bump my lamp back just a little bit. Kind of holding my right wrist at a weird limp angle. Just kind of the most effective for stride yet on my brush. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with even more heat today where I live in Manitoba, so I don't have central air in my house, so I'm just using a fan in my room to keep things cool. Alright, so I've got a little bit of blue in the top right and a little bit of red in the bottom left. It's kind of hard to see right now because they're very dark colors. But as we start bumping up the brightness, it'll look pretty good. And then because all of the bright blue is going to be in the top right, it's actually going to kind of look like this atlas is almost looking towards its left. It's kind of a cool effect. I like how it looks. So it's pretty much what I do consistently with almost all my atlases. I'm going to go ahead and grab the next red color, which is going to be Dragon Red from Army Painter. That into the, whoops, a little bit sloppy with my brush control at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and scrub that off. It's a good thing we've already got warm colors in the shading there, else that could have been pretty bad. Gentle touch. Try and drag this completely along the bottom edge there. I really want to kind of emphasize that area with the red. Same thing, I'm going to start in this corner and pull a little bit towards the side. Just filling in kind of that very deep bottom recess. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next blue, which is going to be a mix of intense blue and crystal blue. So crystal blue is an army painter color. The crystal blue is kind of a good mid-tone. It's vibrant, a little bit punchy. Trying to come a little bit more straight on. I'm trying to avoid poking my head into this, but because this is a recess, it is a little bit hard to see at some angles. As you can kind of see, some of that blue's building, and you can kind of see the brightness of the top, from our perspective, the top right corners of the eyes. Almost looks like the Atlas's eyes are looking towards its left. That'll continue to be more apparent. I'm going to grab actually just a pure bit of crystal blue here, and I'm going to add a little bit more to this blue. Just a little bit of excess that I saw in there. Really trying to just fill in the previous layer, but not quite fully. So start bold by covering a large area, and then as I layer on, I get smaller and smaller gradually. It's kind of the normal sequence of events, kind of the tempo I'll go with. I'm gonna go ahead and grab, this is Pure Red from Army Painter. This is fairly thin out of the bottle, partly because I've added a little bit of thinner to the bottle. Because this paint dried out a little bit on me like 2 or 3 years ago, and I wanted to bring it back to life. So I used like a bit of airbrush thinner and like basically a matchstick to just break things up and get the paint usable again. Kind of filtered out all the big chunks, and then what I have left is what I have left. Boom. I'm definitely going to go around and clean up the edges just to sharpen things up, but we're going to keep on keeping on here. I grab this next red, which is a Evil Sunz Scarlet. Blow off the brush there. It's a bit sloppy, I gotta clean that up. Clean that one up as well. I'm gonna clean them up right now just because they're kind of bothering me. They look really shitty. Like that. Back in with just a little bit of this Evil Sunz Scarlet to the Atlas's right eye to reinforce just a little bit in the corner, as I kind of snuffed out a bit of that red with the black. Just a bit of a weird angle to be painting this. Maybe I can find a slightly more comfortable angle with my handle. I think that's a bit better. A little bit more neat and tidy. Not so bad. Alrighty, I'm going to move on to the next blue, which is going to be Temple Guard blue from Citadel. Just loading this onto my brush. Now this is actually a Citadel Air paint, so it's a little bit thinner out of the bottle. Let's see if I can do this like this. I can kind of brace. A little bit away from the corner. A little bit white into some Temple Guard blue here. Kind of like a 50-50 mix, just a little bit of white ink. Fill in an even smaller area. The color that I'm working with here. Very, very bright. Clean up just a little bit on the upper eyelid is kind of the wrong term. Part of my head. I'm just gonna make sure I can see this really well. Snuff out the work I just did by accident. Pardon the head positioning while I fix this. Okay. While I take a breather and stop straining my wrist for a second. Warwolf 22, this process breakdown is really helpful. Question, do you think it's possible to have these streams as VODs so we can see them anytime? Yep, I keep all of my stream recordings on YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you can find all my stream recordings there. The one from last night has not made it up there yet. I will be uploading them early this week from last night as well as tonight. Yeah. So you will be able to find them. I would like to find some time eventually to go through some of my streams and do some clips and kind of create like more digestible like stream highlight videos of like 10 minutes maybe. 10, 15 minutes at most. That way it's a little bit more digestible instead of 4 hours. But, you know. All right, I'm going to move on to the next color for the warmth quadrant, which is going to be an orange. This is, what is this, lava orange? No, this is red orange. Or orange red. One of the two, I can't remember exactly. I'll pull it off the rack in a second here, just so I can confirm that, but it is a Vallejo color. Kind of tapping it into that corner. This orange is pretty subtle, but it does make a big difference, especially in between this and the next step. Oh, I was already following on YouTube, but I didn't even realize. I'll take a look. Thanks. Yeah, no worries, man. Next color is going to be Uriel Yellow from Citadel. It's a very punchy mid-tone yellow. I love this color for like industrial things. Fucking loader mechs or construction vehicles. This is like the Caterpillar company's official yellow color, I swear. But in the corner, I'm making this like a small-ish dot slash like sideways teardrop. And the reason being is I got to put a very tiny dot of another yellow in there. And that's going to be Dorn Yellow, which is a very desaturated bright yellow. It's almost like a very heavily yellowed off-white of sorts. But more yellow than off-white, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does or not. Okay. Hope that I don't put a giant glob of this as a habit. Okay, just a touch. There you get slightly better hand position. That's a little bit more comfortable. It's getting a little bit shaky there. Don't fight the hand positioning. It's definitely something I think a lot of people struggle with. Oops. When trying to be neat and tidy, is I think they put themselves in slightly uncomfortable positions and they just try to fight through them. I mean, shooting is not always the best analogy for people, but like I kind of liken it to shooting. You want to be in a comfortable position. If you're doing long range shooting, anyways, going for accuracy. Definitely want to be comfortable. Alrighty, I'm gonna add just a little bit more brightness to the top, like I guess top right from our perspective quadrant of. Oh, I just got a little bit of water on my brush there. That's not good. Just trying to mix in a little bit more white ink to this bright Temple Guard blue. So this is basically going to be a heavily blued off-white, even brighter than this other color we were using here, as you can kind of see there. So it's these two basically white lines. I'm going to go ahead and spin this bad actor around, but kind of muckle onto it right here. I just want a tiny touch. Just a touch in there. I'll have to tidy up just the top edge of that, but that's okay. Cool. Same thing with that area. Just gonna go ahead and grab some black here, part of my head. Just kind of see there's like a tiny little wisp of that color that ended up on the top edge on the inside. Same thing with this side here. Okay. That is perfect. Don't need to change that any more than it is right now. Unhappy Yak is now following. Thanks for the follow, my dude. Or dudette. I don't want to discriminate. I don't know your gender of choice. Boom. Look at that. Some pretty eyes looking up to the left. Especially at distance, this looks really, really great. But even up close, like let's zoom that shit right in. It's pretty slick, Rick. Boom. Alrighty. Go ahead and zoom this out slightly. I'm going to take a quick little hydration break, because that's important. So we've done all the lasers, we've done the missiles. Just gonna go ahead and push my lamp slightly out of the way there and get my head out of the way. So, I'm gonna zoom this in very briefly here, just a little bit. I don't really see much else in terms of weapons effects or anything like that. I'm not adding, there's not really any sensor suite lenses for me to paint cool colors. So, hull damage and weathering, I think so. It's probably our next step here. So what I'm going to use for this, I have kind of my highlight color, which is like, we have two colors that are basically almost exactly the same. One is Ogre and Camo from Citadel, and the other is Necrotic Flesh from the Army Painter. This is a very old paint bottle, so I don't know what their current color tone is with this, because paint tone changes sometimes from batch to batch within companies, no matter how hard they try. It just happens sometimes. And this is from like 9 years ago. So, but yeah, this is like a very heavily desaturated, like greenish khaki. But yeah, so I have this as my highlight color. I also have like a straight up khaki. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my highlight color, which in this case I'm using the Necrotic Flesh. I have it already thinned out on the palette. I'm gonna go ahead and pick some areas where I want to have some scratches and shit. Probably some areas on the legs here. I'm gonna go ahead and tap along as though I'm doing like really rough edge highlighting. And I'm just gonna do like a very gentle scratch. And these can be kind of bright and stark like this. We're gonna do things to them in a little bit here to make them not so harsh, and they're gonna look a little bit nicer. I love doing kind of crisscross scratches sometimes. I just find they're eye-catching. It's like caught on this area. I'm gonna make that like very bold. It's always a very fun organic process, and like that's a very gentle but eye-catching crisscross scratch right there. It looks nice and realistic, you know, like it's kind of scuffing and dragging front to back. You imagine, you know, this thing's going to be stomping through all kinds of detritus on the ground. It's probably going to scratch itself up on things. We're not going to get too hard in the paint on all the scratches and whatnot, just because, again, this is probably going to be the nicest of all the mechs out of the 16 that I'm painting right now for my Eridani Light Horse. So I want a few details to kind of make this thing stand out, but not a bunch. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I still have a bunch of other miniatures to paint from the set, and I've got some more basing work to do, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a few points of interest on this, and that's pretty much it. I'm definitely going to focus a little bit more heavy around the feet and the shins, and then I'll do a few up on like the arms and a little bit on the face actually. And because this is very organic, you don't need to be super neat, so you can work pretty quickly when you're doing this. For the next step, you will have to be a little bit more accurate because you're going to be placing slightly darker colors within lighter colors that you're putting down right now, but when you're doing this step, you can kind of slop it up and go a little nice and quick. Some good tunes on right now is Bits and Hits. It's basically the lo-fi version of the Halo soundtrack. First little bit of the stream was Diablo 2 soundtrack and lo-fi. I'm always a big fan of that one. I love starting off the stream with that. Just kind of sets the tone. Plus, I'm a creature of habit. I find music can definitely get my mind in a good space, and I find a lot of this music definitely keeps my mind in a good creative space. I definitely enjoy listening to like Deftones and other things that are a little bit more intense, but not always the best for creative stuff. I will listen to some harder metal and some like psytrance and stuff like that, Goa trance. But definitely enjoy the lo-fi stuff. Super chill, especially on like a Sunday night like this. My daughter's asleep, my wife's just winding down for the evening. Nice and quiet in the house. Even my dog's chilled out. And he's a psychopath. He's half Akita, and then the other half is a mix of Malamute and German Shepherd, so super task-oriented, always needs something to do, or else he turns into a bit of an asshole. His name's Ralph. His alternative name is Bubba, and that's because he always kind of has a bit of a slack-jawed scowl on his face, just by proxy of him being the way that he is. So he kind of looks like Bubba from Forrest Gump, hence the nickname. Couple just around the hands and knuckles and stuff like that. Maybe this dude got mad and punched another mech. Who knows? Or maybe he's got anger issues and he punched a wall. Because his parents were yelling at him, or his lance commander was yelling at him. You're not even my real lance commander. Step lance commander. Adding basically a couple crappy edge highlights along a few areas by the hands there, just to emphasize, like, hey, there's probably some extra wear around those edges. They probably touch things occasionally. It's kind of a weird area that I had to scrape mold lines up here. So I'm going to go ahead and ding this up a little bit. So I'm literally just going to kind of tap along this edge. Get the top edge in there as well. Kind of go up and away from that edge. So this is kind of the base layer for like some chipping that I'm going to be doing here to make this look as though some of this material's been chipped through and ablated away maybe. I'm going to kind of streak just a little bit here to kind of make a scratch. And I'm going to come and fill some of these areas in with darker, like a mix of dark gray with some brown. To kind of make it look like a bit of a brown, like dark brown, kind of beat up metallic material below. Doing 16 ELH, so like a company, a command lance. So yeah, basically like a reinforced company of mechs. I've got like a light mech lance, a medium lance, a battle lance of sorts, and then my command lance. And this will be in the command lance along with a devastator and a cataphract, and correction, not a cataphract, an Caesar. That's what it's called. Jesus. And then a warhammer as well in that lance. I've also got like basically a company-ish of support vehicles and combat vehicles to go along with that, as well as, well, currently a demi company of infantry and battle armor, and I'm gonna add another basically 5 squads of battle armor to that to make the entire thing a like a full company of infantry battle armor. I also need to add one more platoon of infantry to the mix. C. Merwin is now following. Thanks for the follow. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do a couple dings up on the chesticles. Start on this corner here. Easy scratches. It's crazy, just a couple little taps along the corners and edges like this makes a big difference. They really stand out, especially when there's other areas that aren't as brightly highlighted. Just adding a little bit there. I don't want to get too crazy. I am going to add like a couple little chips and scratches along up top on the head, just because we did do a pretty heavily weathered white mask on this Atlas last night, so I feel like there should be a little bit of other weathering along this area. Probably add like a tiny little scratch here. Pretty good. Just a little bit more near the Betty here on the side. I love that little pinup. I'm a big fan of the Fighting Piranha Graphics pinup decals. I've got a few of those. The Bathing Beauty and a couple others. Doesn't need to be too crazy. I don't know if you can tell as well from the recording, but pretty much on all of these miniatures that I'm painting, I kind of did the 90% solution when it came to mold lines. I didn't get 100% of them because it's a shitload of miniatures, and I'm trying to put together what is essentially a massive campaign force, or could be used as a massive campaign force. Probably like Hinterlands style, just where I can kind of grab and go, and just have like a massive roster of mechs that I can pick from. I've already got a bunch of other units and stuff done up, but I figured having like something basic like Iridani Light Horse and having a bit of a mix of tech would be pretty handy. So hence why I'm doing like this massive collection of, you know, essentially combined arms stuff, because combined arms is the way, dude. Can't conduct warfare without combined arms, even in the far future. I mean, you can, but it's not going to last long in your favor. Alright, so I'm just grabbing a little bit of chocolate brown from Vallejo Model Color, and I'm mixing it in with a little bit of black gray, also from Vallejo Model Color. And that's going to give me like a bit of it's like mostly dark gray, but it's got a little bit of brown tint to it. Tap within that area, and when it comes to this step, less is more. I'm just finding those biggest areas that I've hit with the highlight color. I'm just trying to fill some of those in. It's going to kind of lend to like a very basic 3D effect of making it seem like this is gouged through a few layers of paint to the material below. Go ahead and wet my brush here. Grab just a little bit more. Now I'm going to trace 2 of these scratches, but I'm tracing them along their top edge. Now the reason I'm doing that is this lends to, again, that 3D effect. This looks like a deep scratch or gouge where there's a small skinny shadow being cast over the gouge, and then that brighter line on the bottom is like that bottom edge of the gouge catching light. At least that's what it's supposed to create the impression of. You be the judge. Again, less is more with this step. I'm just finding a couple of particular areas to emphasize the depth of these little scratches and nicks. You don't need a lot. I do kind of go crazy with weathering of this nature on some of my miniatures, but I'm definitely not doing it with this atlas here. Go ahead and just hit a couple of these corners and edges right here. This one as well. As you can see, just a few of those dark markings. My shoulder kind of goes a long way to sell the effect of, like, you know, this is scratched and dinged up. See, Merwin, always love your stuff. Awesome to hear. I love that I have usual fans that frequently look at my stuff. It's makes me feel good. Get a little bit over on that corner. A little bit goes a long way. Looks like that thing got hit with, like, I don't know, some small caliber of slug of some kind, or, you know, just a weapon that didn't really do much. Pretty snazzy. I'm gonna go ahead and use a little bit of this dark gray brown. I'm gonna go ahead and stipple a few edges on this. And again, for this, a less is really going to be more. Do a few, like, minor scratches and things like that. Really trying not to put too much of the dark color on there. I think that's probably good. We don't need to go too crazy, but it just adds a few more impressions of some small scratches and stuff on the face of the atlas here. Try to hold this nice and steady just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Boom. I do gotta say my camera is not really doing this justice. There's a lot more brightness around the edges of these panels. Maybe it's actually, might possibly just be because, yeah, that's a little bit better. My one task lamp I think might have been just a little bit too bright. Yeah, there we go. You can really kind of see the scratches a lot more now. That looks pretty slick. I'm digging how that looks. Okay, so from here, we definitely have like a couple spots we can add. You know, I'm gonna add just a little bit more weathering scratches to a couple spots. Like just a few. Zoom this out. I'm gonna kind of bang this knee up a little bit. The reason I'm gonna do this is I want to add in some streak and grime, but I want a couple areas that are pretty banged up. Probably gonna do a little bit of streak and grime near this 01. Just because I find adding patina to like decals and stuff like that. That's right, I pronounce them decals, not decals. I'm a filthy Canadian. You can fucking fight me if you want. Yeah, I want to have a couple areas that are a little bit more banged up. Okay. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and fill this stuff in just a little bit with some of the darkness. The darkness! Looking pretty good. Cool. Much better. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and plop this bad boy onto his post. Zoom this out slightly, well, all the way, pretty much. So, reach. I've got my AK Streak and Grime. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a good shake. I keep separate brushes for my oil brushes as well as my enamels. I kind of interchange my enamel and oil brushes. I've never really had issues there. Then again, I'm only doing weathering stuff with these. I'm not really doing like grits, detail work by any means. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this brush. Actually, you know what? I might use I'm gonna use my really tiny one. I think maybe. We're gonna go ahead and use this one. Just a little guy. I've had this one kicking around for a minute, and it's pretty beat up. Just a little guy from Royal and Langnickel. Just a cheap, really cheap Michael's brush. Alrighty, so I'm not going to use the wet part of this. I'm just going to use this to kind of wipe excess off. I guess I'll grab my cleaning jar. So I just keep a little bit of white spirits in a jar. I'm going to leave that closed for now. Get this open. It's been a minute since I've opened this one, so ooh, nice and smelly. Okay, so I actually like to grab some of the more clumpy stuff that's on like the inside of it's a little kind of on the inside of the jar there. Stuff that's a little bit more dry. If I can get this to focus at all. It's a little bit more dry. Go ahead and increase the brightness there so you can see. You can see it's like kind of dry and clumpy. That stuff's actually kind of good. Same thing with the stuff that's on the inside of the lid. It'll be a little bit drier and clumpier. This is actually kind of a little bit nicer. It's not quite as dry and clumpy. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of that stuff. And I'm just going to take a little bit of a glob of it. And I'm just going to kind of boop, stick it on. So I'm just kind of sticking it over like those deep gouge spots. And this is going to dry relatively quickly because it is fairly goopy, these bits that I'm putting on. I don't need this to like dry completely. I just need to let it sit for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to use a bit of white spirits to gently kind of ease and streak all this stuff. I'm literally just going to throw a big glob on right there. Just looking to see if there's any other areas I should put it on. I don't think so. That's probably it. Maybe down here. Oh yeah, I wanted to put some right above the 0 there. Alrighty. I'm gonna go ahead and close my streak and grime so I don't accidentally knock this thing over and create a massive mess that I don't want to deal with. Probably just shut the stream down and go cry. Go ahead and kind of roll this back and forth, getting off all that stuff. And I'm gonna wipe that off on my little paper towel there. Boom. Okay. So now that I've got this brush, I'm gonna quickly just get a little bit, wick a little bit onto the brush, and then I'm gonna tap this brush two or three times very gently to the paper towel just to wick the excess white spirits off this, and then I'm going to, I'll zoom this in. Just gonna like very gently go to this area that I put the glob on. It's basically dry now. Pull off just a little bit more excess from the brush. As you can see, this just streaks a bit of that streak and grime down. Adds a little bit of patina. Whoops. It'd be nice if I did that on camera. Just very gently pulling. I don't want to pull all of it away. I can even just take a little bit of this excess that I have and just kind of tap, and then find other corners and edges like this, and I can actually use a little bit of that excess and just pull down with my kind of crappy brush. And because it's a bit of a frayed brush, it actually creates multiple streak lines. So there's a little bit of a dried bit right there. I'm gonna pull. This white spirits kind of hangs around in the bristles of this brush for a little while, so you really don't need much to... There we go. And you can kind of see that's that little streaky patina I was talking about on that little 0. Just adds like a little bit of character to a few areas. Boom. I'll even hit the 1 with it, and I'll kind of wash that over the front of the shin. Boom, just like so. The small little touches make a very big difference. They add a lot of character to your miniatures, so don't be afraid to try this stuff out. It's very forgiving, especially if you coat this thing in gloss first and then do this. You have a lot of wiggle room to kind of clean things and just fix a lot of things if you mess them up. Right, for this massive glob here. Just kind of pulling that down. Go ahead and grab a little bit of excess. Just tap that. I'm just doing that to add a little bit more softness into this because it's a bigger, harder clump that dried. See, it's got quite a bit of patina there. Just kind of dragging down. Now, I'm not necessarily doing this the same way that like scale modelers do, because I like this is just such a small scale. I can't really do tiny little streaks individually everywhere. I mean, I have done that, but it's just not really practical. They don't really show up well in photos. They don't really get noticed by anybody but me. So I do them occasionally, but for the most part, I do these bigger streaks that are a little bit more obvious, and I do fewer of them. Because again, less is more. Alrighty, that step is done. So dare I say this atlas is basically complete, save for the fact that along with this atlas and all these infantry, we just have to do some dry brushing on the base and then paint the base rim black, and then this thing's going to be good to go. And then yeah, so this thing's going to look fantastic on the tabletop. Really excited to have this thing leading my army. Betty! Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and pull this fucker off the painting handle. Sorry, I was just stifling a burp. I have some infantry here. Let's take a quick look at these battle armor that we finished yesterday, because these guys are actually like done. Oh, got a little hair. Oh. Yeah, the spooky boys. Little creepy boys with their lasers. Looking pretty good. Unhappy Yak, what would you say makes a mini look Battletech versus looking 40k or whatever else? I don't know. I think that's pretty hard to say because I think the whole grimdark aesthetic lends itself pretty well to Battletech as it is. I've done some grimdark style miniatures for Battletech, like quite a few actually. So I think that style works. Even the heavy metal style, I've done some more in the heavy metal style. Very clean layering and edge highlighting style. I've done a few different styles, mainly just because I'm interested in a number of different styles. I don't know. I definitely think battle damage, especially if you're one of those grognards that plays in the 30-25 era, strictly, like, I think you should have tons of battle damage and grime on all your mechs, because it's the third succession war. Like, everybody's stuff sucks. Everybody's stuff is in disrepair. But again, like, if you're a grognard playing in those eras, you probably also play with standees, so can't really help those folks there. Yeah, I don't know. It's painting style is so individualistic, even within the 40k space. There's so many different styles, so I wouldn't necessarily say that there is a overtly 40k style aside from maybe grimdark, because a lot of that painting style you'll see across numerous IPs essentially. Always good to experiment with different styles. You never know when you might find something you like. Yeah, 100%. And I don't know, like, especially for certain, if you're using 40k as an example, there's certain painting styles that for certain races work better than others. If you're painting a bunch of Space Marines or Orcs, doing a very sloppy grimdark style can really help you chomp through a bunch of miniatures really quickly. Whereas if you're, painting Eldar, generally speaking, Eldar are pretty clean and pristine looking. So, a heavy metal style kind of lends a little bit more towards their aesthetic style. And then, basic, I would argue Necrons are the king of like basic tabletop paint jobs. Because, they're metal, man. Like, you paint them, you spray them with like lead belcher and paint a few of the joints and whatnot in black with, basic gray highlights, and then apply a wash all over everything, paint some basic object source lighting on some of the weaponry and eyes, and you're good to go, man. So I think having a number of painting styles in your arsenal can definitely help you when you're painting certain, just certain things, if that makes sense. Anyways, ramble over. I'm gonna go ahead and grab just debating which we'll do the more easy modern style infantry first here. We'll do these Doom Buggy dudes here. We're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of metallics onto the 50 cals, just because it'll help them pop a little bit. I'm gonna use my number 2 brush, not my number 1. My number 2 gets used a little bit more, including with a little bit of metallics, so I don't like using any metallics with my number 1. This is a dark silver from Pro Acryl. I already had it sitting on my wet palette. I'm going to pop this bucket off. I don't really need the post. And I don't have a lot of paint on this brush because I don't want to fill all those recesses on the 50 cal. I want to kind of keep those recesses dark. Really not a huge amount of detail on these little Doom Buggies, but they do have headlights. So I think we might paint the headlights. I'm also gonna like half-ass paint the rigs on these guys as well as the other modern infantry. Set my brush. Grab the other Doom Buggy dudes and quickly do their 50 cals. And this is the dude with the 50 cal who the barrel broke on. So we're going to use the power of the imagination, pretend that he actually has a serviceable machine gun on his vehicle. I'm moving quickly here. We're kind of speed painting a little bit with these guys because, I mean, look at them. There's not a huge amount of detail here. You can pretty much tell what it is just by looking at it. Hey, those are infantry and Doom Buggies. Cool, man. Don't gotta beat this dead horse with this one. So, it comes to all of these conventional infantry. I'm just going to throw a little bit of charcoal gray along kind of the top edges of their weapons. Just like a very basic, gentle highlight. And then I'll probably come in with a slightly lighter gray as well, just to hit a few edges. Black rifles are generally not very shiny. Don't want to paint these in silver. Whereas 50 cals, like, if they've been around for a minute, some of those surfaces get pretty polished and worn, so you'll see a little bit of silvery edges and stuff glinting in the light. I'll go ahead and grab this one. Quickly do the same thing with the rifles. Kind of going all over. These are such small little details. Just moving quickly. This last gap. That's pretty much all I needed to do. I'm going to go ahead and grab I'm gonna use the chocolate brown that I have on my palette just to quickly block in kind of some of these vests and chest rigs and stuff like that. Some little belt line rigs and whatnot on all of these infantry dudes. The reason being, I just want to kind of break up the overall profile of these dudes by painting some of their tactical gear a little bit of a different shade. And it's just going to be earth tones, you know, it's just going to be like khaki brown essentially. Nothing fancy. Oops. When it comes to like the stuff that's hidden behind the arms on the chest, like I'm not worried about that. Just the stuff that's a little bit more obvious, like on the back sides, where they would have like either H harnesses or back panels from their plate carriers. This brown is just going to act as like the darkest shade of the rigs. For my angle there, this dude that's kind of facing the front, he's got a little bit of chest exposed. Go ahead and touch this up with some brown. This other dude needs to get hit with a bit. This dude that's kind of crouched over. So this guy has what's kind of more traditionally known as a chest rig. It's got the H harness on the back, but I'm just painting the entire back. So it's like a plate carrier. So I don't really care about fussing over tiny little details like that. Not on these dudes anyways. It's not really worth it to me. Not at the moment anyways. Okay, I'm just taking a quick look. I'm definitely gonna do the little chest rig and pack of the radio man, or the signaler I should say. It's the more correct term. Angle there. Just trying to do this quickly and not trying to spend too much time on this thing. Okay, cool. So, broken them up just a little bit. Go ahead and grab these guys, and we'll go ahead and repeat that process. And then I'll go back with a like a khaki color and highlight all the areas that just blocked in. That'll be pretty quick and dirty. Outline on this dude. Back this out slightly. Pretty much just gonna kind of hit all the back sides that are within reach here, and then I'll spin around and hit all the front sides. This will just save me a little bit of time. Less repositioning of the hands. Sometimes you gotta kind of think about efficiency of movement that way if you're working through big batches, or you're working on a time crunch. Sometimes I'm working on a time crunch just because I know my, I got other things to do. Maybe I gotta get to bed at a reasonable time. Or maybe I'm just challenging myself to work through something quickly, which is essentially what I'm doing with these guys. Taking a look at the fronts of the torsos on these dudes. Yeah. That's my brush. Cool. Looking at this one gun, it's kind of got a bit of a weird bit of green on it. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a monster brown. It's a good mid-tone brown. Actually, no, I'm gonna grab Hammerfall khaki. That's what I'm gonna grab. A bit brighter. Pretty desaturated, but this color differs enough from the other colors on here that it won't blend in too much. This is very bright, so I might have to use some of the monster brown. It's a little bit bright. Just put a single drop on my palette, just a wee bit. Boom, monster brown. I'm just going to mix the monster brown with that Hammerfall khaki. These shoulder straps. Oops. Just a little bit messed up there. Hit those shoulder straps that are pretty prominent. These pouches on the back of the belt line. I don't need to worry about covering the entire thing because there's enough indication of the rig just from the brown that we put in. I'm just trying to hit those prominent like belt lines and raised edges and stuff, just like that. Okay, so that one dude's done. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit more of this paint on my brush. Straps. So, front belt line's good to go. Okay, I'm gonna do this other dude here. Just doing this as quickly as I can, just enough to create some visual interest. I actually just noticed I didn't quite hit the backside with any of the brown on this guy. And fill that in quickly. Notice I'm moving pretty quickly through these. Like I'm not being super neat and tidy because these guys are basically wearing camouflage gear. So some of these colors are going to blend into each other. I just want to make sure that the general transition zones are kind of neat and tidy. Everything else can just be kind of, you know, indications. Kind of tapping and stippling more towards the top of the shoulders, just to kind of force the highlights towards the top area there, not lower. This dude's got a bit of chest exposed. Go ahead and hit, yeah, that chest as well as some of the forward shoulders. this dude's shoulder too. That's good. Two more dudes to do on this base, and then I'll move on to the other one, and that's pretty much it for those dudes. Like, these are not super highly detailed infantry miniatures, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on them. There's a tiny little support underneath this guy. I'm just going to quickly clip that with a knife. These dudes are basically good to go. And grab these fellers. I'm gonna do the pack first here, I think. There, it's just because the thumb brace on the holder was blocking the view of the camera. And I'm just trying to move quickly here because I'd like to finish all of these tonight. So I don't want to spend too much time on these. Just put my angle. Down to get this low. Just rub my brush over one of these other dudes in an area I didn't really want to. It's okay. Not the end of the world. Or is it? Maybe. I'll decide in a few minutes if I want to be mad or not. I don't think I do. It's never worth it, man. Just a light touch when I'm just very gently touching the brush to this, and basically like almost dry brushing this color onto these miniatures with this brush that I'm using. So this is a fairly dry paint that I'm applying. So when I hit those raised edges, it applies it pretty quickly, but it doesn't put it into the recesses. Okay, one other fellow on this base to do, and then I will have to do. I'm going to do a little bit of flesh color on the radio feller because he's basically a bald guy, not wearing a helmet. Maybe he's wearing a tooth, but we'll decide when we start to paint it. Okay, radio dude is on his handset. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that handset a little bit. Sorry, this is really hard for me to see, so I'm going to get my head in the way here for a second. Just putting a little bit of charcoal gray on the top side of that handset and the radio guy's hands. I'm going to go ahead and put Monster Brown as the base color for the head, and then I'll layer up a couple flesh tones. The only flesh that I'm painting is on this bald dude with the radio. Part of my bit of a weird angle trying to get this brush down in behind the head without touching the mast on his head, on his bag. Okay. Future kindling. What's going on, Mac Frog? As you can see, quick and dirty. We're not being super neat on those details. We're just giving the indication of basic highlights on some of those rigs. We go ahead and grab like an actual flesh tone. What is this? Barbarian Flesh Army Painter. I'm gonna go ahead and shake this up. This is probably super chalky. Oh yeah, dude, this is not fit for painting. That's okay. We just need like a tiny little bit of it that's thinned down well enough. I really should zoom out so you can see how goopy this is. It's like a big glob, big chunk. I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of hit the top of the head. Just kind of trying to cover the entire head with this color. Nothing fancy that I really feel people need to look at too closely. I'll just kind of show what I did at the end result there. As you can see, head is now bright. I'm gonna grab a quick little bit of flesh wash, literally, so why not? And I'll quickly throw a tiny little bit over. No, that's not what I wanted. Flesh wash, there we go. This is just because I'm incredibly lazy. I just want to have this not be completely flesh colored. Just like putting the tiniest bit around the sides of the head. That's literally it, just the tiniest bit. Okay. Now, this is totally not practical at all. No infantry unit ever would have antenna with white markings on the tops. In fact, most military antennas or I shouldn't say military antennas, most antennas for military radios are actually green. Get this to focus. But this one's black, and I'm going to put a little bit of white marking on the top end just so it's easy to see, because this is miniature painting, and sometimes we need to break the rules of the real world in order to make things look cool. Because let's be real, if like pretty much everything on the armored vehicles I work with are painted the color of choice that the entire vehicle is supposed to be, whether it's green or tan, everything that they possibly can paint that color they paint on that vehicle. So even grills on the outside of the vehicle, all kinds of attachment points, they're all painted green. But that looks super boring. So that's why even on my Iridani Light Horse mechs, I still have some metallic bits that show, as well as, just things that on an actual military vehicle you probably would never have. I'm just trying to reinforce the brightness of the white here. Clean up the bottom. I think that's about good. We're not going to fuss too much with these. Oops. We're going to do something fun. We're going to paint the headlights on these dune buggies. Cover and flashing LED strips like a custom computer case. Oh, hell yeah. They're looking for soldiers. They're They're not looking for the giant disco mech. They're looking for sneaky mechs. Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and I'm going to put some white gray classic misdirection, 100%. So this is this is white gray, so this is basically in like an off-white. I'm gonna paint this into headlights completely. After I paint this in, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of fluorescent yellow to fill this in, and then I'm going to fill most of this back in with just straight up like this color. So not the entire thing will be tinted with the fluorescent yellow, and then I'll put a hot spot of white in the middle. It'll look close enough to what headlights may look like at the scale. I don't know, man. I just do things, and then people tell me they look good, so then I keep doing them. But I've done this little headlight trick on a few things. I think it looks pretty slick. Like I have some wheeled scouts that I painted up along with some Davion infantry to basically just be mechanized infantry, and I've got those headlights on the wheeled scouts painted as though they are on, and it looks pretty decent, if I don't say so myself. These are pretty bright. I don't like the reason why I'm going to add the fluorescent yellow and then paint more of this color back in and then add the white is I want a little bit of tonal variation. I don't just want this to just be like white circles on the fronts of, even though that's, you know, for all intents and purposes, they're big bright white lights, they would be just bright white circles, but in my head canon there needs to be some kind of variation in tone for it to look more realistic. So especially at this scale at arm length, you know, you're not going to see a huge amount of difference, but small differences do matter. To me, anyways. I like seeing those small differences. I notice them. At least I'd like to think I notice them. Who makes these little guys? They're awesome. So this would be Ig makes. Yeah, like these and the modern infantry that I'm using. Those are from Ig makes. Boom. So nice and bright. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my fluorescent yellow ink. This is Daller and Rowney FW artist ink. This stuff is transparent, so it doesn't cover other colors. It just filters them. Offload some of that. I'm just going to kind of very gently, very lightly tinting these. You just see like a very, very subtle hue change between the two sides. See what I'm saying there? Focus. You see a slight hue change. That's all we're looking for. We'll be taking a brief break after I finish these little headlights. I stand up and go walk around and stretch my legs and grab a drink. And then we will finish with the last of the details and the basing stuff. We will not be doing the basing vegetation because I gotta varnish all these with my airbrush. I have a bunch of other mechs and stuff, as I alluded to earlier, a number of which I've painted, some of which still need to be painted. Other than this Atlas that we're working on, there's 3 other mechs that I gotta finish. as well as 3 vehicles, one of the vehicles of which has a few turret options that I need to paint, and then I have all this infantry here. So, alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and grab just the straight up. So this is the white gray that I put in here as the base layer first. I'm gonna go ahead and just put a dot in the middle. Just like so, it just kind of reinforces the hot spot of light. The camera is just absolutely struggling to focus on this because these things are so small. And then after I apply this little bit of white gray, I'll add pure white right in the very middle, and that'll be the final touch. Again, like this is a very, very small tonal change. I personally think it's noticeable if I was to just paint this white compared to this. I think it is a noticeable difference. I'm going to rinse out my brush, and I'm going to go ahead and grab some pure white ink. And I'm just trying to do the tiniest little central white dots on these, like just a touch. Boom. It's a little bit blurry. I'm just gonna finish with this. I'm gonna turn my task lamp down just slightly to see if I can get this to show up a little bit better. There, we can see the get that to focus a little bit better. There we go. Nice and bright. It's not just like a pure white. You can kind of tell there's like a very slight hue in there of something. But that really sticks out, really pops out. Especially if you like go from like being directly in the light to boom, headlights, dude. Sick. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and set these down. We're gonna take like a 10-minute break here. I'm gonna go stretch my legs, all that good shit, and then we'll come back and finish off. I do have like a couple other details I'm gonna paint on these guys, just very, very minor ones, just to break up the look of the dudes on the back there, just with a little bit of khaki. And then the last infantry that we have to work on here, these are the Assyrian atmospheric drop troopers from Wake's Emporium. I use these as heavy infantry. We're going to paint in their visors with a little bit of basic jeweling. We'll do some basic highlighting on their rifles and paint in some weapon effects. We got the little plasma cannon. This guy over here has what's basically the equivalent of a melta gun, and then the other two guys just have laser rifles. So we'll paint in some weapon effects on those, make them look super snazzy, and then we're gonna finish off the basing, painting, and paint the base rims black, and then these fellers are all done. Bear with me, folks. We're gonna take a pause right now. All right, back from my little jaunt. Just got myself a Mexican Coca-Cola here as a refreshment. Last one in my fridge, so I'm very excited about that. There's just something so much better about the Mexican Coca-Colas with the cane sugar. Absolutely love these things. Southpaw, the classic Burke, has followed. Thanks for the follow, man. Enjoyed a nice Father's Day today. Not my first one. I technically had my first one last year, but my daughter was only a couple weeks old, so the whole magnitude of being a dad hadn't really fully set in yet. It's awesome. My wife baked a two loaves of sourdough bread, and then just had a nice family day with my daughter. Cooked some food, did a bunch of meal prep, went for a nice long walk as a family with our dog. It's good stuff. Any dads in the chat, drop a line. Happy Father's Day. Cheers all rounds. Alrighty. I'm gonna hop back over to the painting desk here. We'll crack on. Okie dokie here. Okay, just checking my sound levels, making sure that the sound's actually coming through on this mic. Good to go. Got some Coke in hand. I'm gonna keep it soft to the side, out of the way, so I don't bump it with my elbow. I think I'm just gonna paint the helmets on these dudes. I just want to. I don't know. There's just a little bit too much green for my liking in here. So I'm going to quickly grab my number 2 brush. So that's all I really need. And I'm going to grab a little bit of my Monster Brown. And I'm going to slop it up all over these 2 dudes' domes. Boom. Big old hit me sign, basically. Highlighted head. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of, because these guys don't have covered faces, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of Monster Brown on the face. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight these helmets with a mix of khaki and brown. So basically what's going to happen is like these helmets are going to look like just bright tan, and then the faces are going to look like dirty faces, dirty brown faces. And my hand here is killing my autofocus. Oops. Looking dirty just like that. I don't know, it just adds like a small amount of detail. Makes it pop a little bit. Nothing crazy. I suppose we're gonna actually apply a little bit of a wash of this flesh wash just to the dudes holding the guns, and then that'll change the overall tone of their green on their uniforms. So hopefully it'll help just make them not blend in quite as much. I just don't really care to spend too much time on these ones. Again, they're really low detail. Boom, good enough. I think those are good. We'll go ahead and repeat the process. Again, just grabbing a little bit of that Monster Brown. This guy's had a little bit better. Rinse off my brush. So we're going to add a little bit of that Monster Brown to these guys' face as well. Can't forget that. Just touching it with it. With that Monster Brown with some of the khaki. I'm using like skeleton bone and Monster Brown, so it's a little bit desaturated. Probably using way too many brush strokes and creating texture on the helmets, but who cares? They're so tiny. Boom. All right, these little teams of dune buggies are done. Don't really need to fuss with those too much. We are now going to move on to these heavy infantry. Wet my whistle. I'm gonna wet my brush. Get a little bit of this black gray on my brush. I'm gonna go ahead and do some highlights. I'm basically like very basic general highlights. I'm just kind of hitting all the high areas because I want to keep the indication that these are black. I don't want these to look like gray necessarily. I will add like a lighter gray to some of these more extreme, obvious highlights, especially around the edges. Wait out on that. Add just a little bit more water to this paint because it's pretty dry right now. Unfortunately, it's just been sitting on my palette for a little while. Despite my Despite my wet palette being relatively effective, it's very hot in my office. My wife popped in here briefly over the break, and it's kind of like, wow, it's hot in here. It's like, yep, just cooking. We'll do some fun little bits of OSL on this plasma cannon. There are infantry plasma cannons and PPCs in Battletech. If you're not hip to that, it is a thing. So heavy weapons teams and all that good shit, I like that. For the Melta, I mean, you can basically just call it a plasma cannon as well. Plasma rifle, maybe, who knows? I don't know. You could even just call it a flamer at that point. It's just burning things. Call it a burninator, if anything else. Probably gonna paint these guys' rigs as well on their backs. I really only need to paint the stuff on their backs. It's around. Again, I'm gonna go to that monster brown. Thought I just got a hair in there. Actually gonna try to be careful not to paint. It's actually setting myself off here. I'm gonna try to be careful not to paint into the recesses too much. Trying to paint every detail on these dudes, but I do think like painting these pouches on their backs and stuff, even if I just paint a few of them, I don't necessarily need to paint every single one. I just taking that little extra step, kind of going that extra mile to pick out a few details here and there definitely helps. Oops. Khaki color works pretty well. Monster brown, rather. I get that airline with it. Just realized there's like a little buttstock area tucked underneath the arm here on the infantry, and part of it's sticking out. So I'm painting that in black here, and I'm going to add a little bit of the charcoal, like the black gray, and highlight that. It's such a small area, but I saw it, so I'm going to make sure it gets painted properly. I figure most people probably would never notice this, but I would, so it gets painted. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and grab this khaki, add it to a little bit of the monster brown, and I'm gonna highlight some of these pouches and all that good stuff. Just hitting all those highest sides and edges. This guy on the front, and I gotta work my way in between these others. It's actually got some damage to the back side of the miniature on the underside, so I'm just trying to avoid that area so I don't end up highlighting where the damage is. It's kind of hidden right now because it's painted dark. By damage, I mean it's like these were 3D printed infantry, so they had little supports underneath them, and a couple areas on some of these miniatures have a little bit of support damage on the undersides. It's not noticeable at a glance, but there's even a few areas on these helmets right here, there's kind of like the one little depression and then the other. Those are actually support marks. But with the way that the helmet's designed, those actually almost look like they're meant to be there. So it's not a huge deal. And it's on pretty much every single one of them. So it's there's a uniformity across all the miniatures that it's just like, okay, they just have these little dimples on the backs of their helmets. But anywho, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight the masks on their face. It's just got a little lower face masks. I'm just going to put some of the black gray, and then when I go and highlight the rifles, I'm going to use the same extreme highlight color that I'm using on the rifles on these little face mask pieces. I'm just doing the lower half. I'm going to do the visor separately. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and grab a cold gray. I'm going to mix this with a little bit of the black gray and get like a not so harsh highlight color. I'm just going to go in and hit some of those highest, hardest edges. Yeah, dude. Zelda lo-fi beats, dude. Let's go. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out just so you can see my palette here. So I have the black gray over here, and then I have the cold gray, and I'm mixing the two till I got like kind of like a darker mid-tone gray color. It's still fairly dark gray, honestly, but it's on the lighter end of dark gray. I'm going to go ahead and use that as my kind of edge highlight color for some of the more extreme edge highlights on these guys. Even just kind of the top areas, I'm just going to paint with that, and then I'll do some of these other edges. Just a little bit more of the cold gray into the mix, so it's a little bit brighter here. Just a little bit. Just a little bit too much moisture in my brush. Sorry about that. Just off in space right now, not saying anything. Just deeply focused on getting this thing sorted out here. Just some of these edges. On that plasma cannon, I think the guns are almost good enough. Like, we don't need to go too crazy. Like, I've definitely taken a lot of time to go crazy on edge highlighting with some of these small infantry, my heavy infantry. I'm gonna get some nice ones here. I'm just kind of going along like the ends of the cylinders there on that muzzle device on the Melta. Just hitting some of the higher edges. I'm gonna kind of do the same on this one too. I want to kind of create that harder highlight. Even if it's a little bit messy, it doesn't need to be perfect. I do got to use this color to highlight the mask pieces too. So make sure I hit the stock. Centered here. Very, very gently putting a small amount of this mixture of cold gray and the black gray onto the lower face masks. I'm just mixing a little bit more on my palette because I ran low. Just got 2 more masks to finish highlighting. We're going to use just a little bit of pure cold gray. And highlight just a couple areas on these. Like the most extreme highlights on like kind of the ends. See what I'm doing on that plasma cannon. It's very shaky. I'm trying to keep this as stable as possible, but I'm working at some weird angles trying to paint these things. So from here, we're going to go on to the visors on the helmets. We're going to kind of paint these. We're going to paint them with some reds and oranges, just because that's going to help stand out against like this darker backdrop of the dark soil and the dark green. Red's always a good contrast to green. Same with purple, but the base of purple being red and blue, the red is really what helps lend to good contrast. So in keeping with that same thing with the Atlas, the red is I'm being focused on the bottom left of the visors. Like I'm kind of swiping it across the whole visor, but I'm really focusing on the bottom left. And that's because I want the light direction. I want there to be a delineated light direction. Go ahead and grab the next color. So I was just using Chaotic Red from Army Painter. I'm now grabbing Dragon Red. real careful there that I don't get red onto the rifle. I'm just going to reposition my lamp a little bit. Get that red along the bottom edge. Okay, now moving on to pure red, also from the Army Painter. This is a bit of a thin red, but it's very bright and vibrant. After I do these visors, we'll go on to weapon effects. These guys are pretty much done. Getting a little bit more on my brush. Really trying to be extra cognizant to keep these as stable as possible, because I know I'm definitely moving these things around quite a bit in front of the camera. Probably not the most enjoyable thing to watch, like probably very like Blair Witch Project like shaky cam. Trying to avoid that. I'll have to do a little bit of cleanup on this feller in the back. I'll just have to reinforce like a black border in between. I'll probably just do that now. Just got the red just a little bit low. Just reinforcing that little recess below, like between the visor and the face mask. Just putting that black in there. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some Evil Sun Scarlet. This is slightly brighter red. It's a little bit more bold and goes on a little bit more bold, as you can see. To do a bit of cleanup on that lower face mask. Let's do down here. Better clean up on two of these. Clean up Isle Me. There's another dude here. Oh, this up as well. I think it's, yeah, right here. Let's see it. There we go. Go. Cool. Wrapping all those lenses up. I'm going to go ahead and grab, this is going to be a bit of orange. This is like, this one's actually called Red Orange from Vallejo. Sorry, I'm just trying to hold the miniature steady while I mix paint on a palette. Just kind of mixing the paint up with a bit of water just to make it a little bit more usable and pliable. A very small little highlight area with this. Doesn't need to be big. Grab just a little bit more moisture so this doesn't dry out on me. ahead and grab a little bit of Uriel yellow. It's that like bright construction vehicle yellow. Absolutely love this stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and just run off some excess. Okay, that's good. Oops. That was really messy. I'll have to clean that up quite a bit. Gonna grab a little bit of black ink and go back and clean some of these up, because holy hell, I really made a mess of two of these. So I have to go on with a little bit of Eagleson Scarlet here and just tidy up a little bit of excessive yellow that I put right here. Yeah, right there, perfect. Hold that as still as I can there. I can see like a much smoother gradient. Bordering around it's a little bit cleaner. That top edge with the black. Go ahead and grab the thorn yellow, which is like the super bright yellow. It's like an ice yellow almost. Just doing a tiny little bit. Clean up around those corners. Just drawing a little bit on my brush here. Just adding a little bit of moisture to my brush. Gently tapping that corner. Go ahead and clean up just a little bit with the black ink on a couple of these. It's good. The back needs a little clean up. Okay. Those are about good. Visors are looking pretty deadly. Final touch on these visors. This is like the only detail that we're really going to beat the hell out of other than the weapon effects on these guys. And that's just because we have a little bit of time here before I'm hoping to stop. I'm going to go ahead and just place like the tiniest white dot over just up on this corner. See how it looks. Not the cleanest. Probably tidy that one up. It's starting to dry on my brush. My fault. I should have rinsed my brush a little bit quickly and just gotten new ink on my brush. There we go. So I do a nice tiny dot like that. That was beautiful. As opposed to that big monstrosity over there. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of black ink. Just Dealing with a big water droplet that rolled into my brush. I'm just going to go ahead and black that out completely. Oops. So I just black that dot out completely. It's right here. It's no longer. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more white and try to do a nice tiny dot. Not quite as tiny as I would like. I'm going to touch that one up just a tiny bit. Literally, this is how I operate sometimes. I will do a million touch-ups until I get it right. There we go. That's about good. That's about good on that guy. Yeah, we're good. Somebody followed and I didn't see it. I'm gonna double check here. AC71, thanks for the follow. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get my red. I'm gonna fill the muzzle of the laser. Of lava paint on the end of this brush. Look at that. My goodness. We're gonna roll with it. Look at that massive blob. I'm gonna use that to put a bit of paint right over here. Boom. Crazy. I know that was absolute heresy what I just did. Zoom this out just slightly. These are, I think that's a little bit of a better view. A little bit less claustrophobic view of these little fellas. Those visors are looking pretty sharp. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of decorate the melt-a-gun muzzle the same way I am the laser. I'm just gonna treat it like a heavy laser of sorts, I guess. In my head canon anyways. Not that it really matters for you folks. Now with this blue, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pick out a little bit of this plasma coil. Pardon me. A little bit of the dragon red, put it in the laser muzzles. We go to the pure red now. Just keep layering this on top for these lasers. Go to my next blue here. It's crystal blue. It's way too much water. I'm gonna go ahead and addition, I'm also going to kind of hit a few edges nearby with this color. Deadly song, by the way. Big fan of this one. So this looks a little bit messy around that so far, but that's okay because I got to layer on some other paints. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom this in just slightly. Just there we go. I think that's better. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of this Evil Sun Scarlet and put it on the laser muzzles. Center this. I'm gonna add some white ink and then some fluorescent red to the lasers. First, I'm gonna go into this Temple Guard blue. Layer this on. Yeah, just a little bit of white ink. I'm going to thin it down really heavily. A little bit more water. Kind of find a consistency here that's like kind of a glaze consistency. I'm going to kind of wash this into some of the recesses here. And I'm okay with going a little bit extra bright on this because I can knock that down very, very easily. It's a lot easier to go darker than it is bright. That significantly brightens it up, right? So I'm going to let that dry. Once it dries, it's not going to be quite as bright either. This seems a lot more concentrated just because it's very wet right now and it's all concentrated into the recesses. But once that dries, I'm gonna go in with the Temple Guard blue and probably a little bit of Arcane blue that I'll throw onto my palette and just kind of ease some of that transition. But I will definitely keep this like to have it so it looks like it's glowing. I'm gonna get my auto focus to focus on this properly. There we go. I go ahead and get a little bit of the white ink. Just putting it right in the middle there, trying not to snuff out all of the red. Trying to leave on a good amount of red, actually. Like, really helps to sell the whole thing. This next step where we add the fluorescent kind of works to punch up all the colors, the white and the red included. If we can get that to focus, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my red. This is Dowler and Rowney FW. Boom. It's a semi-transparent, which is just translucent. I don't know why they make the distinction of calling it semi-transparent, but that's what they call it. I've got my fluorescent red. I'm going to go ahead and just touch that onto a damp paper towel just to take off some of the excess. Boom. lasers. We have to start wearing black gloves. It seems like the bright white skin on my hands is what's causing all the havoc of my autofocus. Pardon me. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up a little bit of this stuff around my plasma cannon. I'm just mixing up a little bit of this whitened hard blue mix. Go ahead and actually get a little bit of arcane blue. So this color will work a little bit better. It's just slightly different than the Temple Guard blue. It's just got a little bit more brightness to it. And I think it actually has just a slight bit more green in the mix. They're both very bright, punchy, like cyan, teal colors. But arcane blue is, here, I'll zoom out slightly so you can see. You can kind of see the difference here. That's the Temple Guard blue. That is the arcane blue. It's just a little bit of green added in, and it's a little bit brighter. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of this. Just a little bit of white ink. And I'm just trying to hit these little plasma coils only. Do like these tiny, tiny little lines. Just a little bit of this arcane blue specifically, and just hit like a couple little edges here. I feel like I need to add a little bit of detail into the muzzle. I'm going to do a bit of cleanup along the forearm there too. There we go. A little the muzzle painted, like it's glowing in there. I guess I got to repeat that on the other side here. That's going to be kind of hard to do, but oh well. I've committed myself to it. This might get a little funky for the viewers. While I try to... Actually, I might be able to find the perfect angle here. Who knows? There we go. Boom. That's pretty snazzy. Okay. Get olive green color. That should relatively close. Actually, this it's like army green from Army Painter. That'll more closely match. I'm just going to use this to kind of clean up a little bit. You have like too much object source lighting going on here on the forearm, so to pull this area in back there. also going to use some of the black gray and some of these areas around the edge. I want to kind of dry it on my brush a little bit. Just feel like I have a little bit too much light spill on a couple things here. Just feel like there's a couple of areas I gotta fix. This is entirely a feel-based thing. Like I'm just kind of looking at this and being like, does this look realistic? Realistic-ish. I mean, it's hard to do at this scale. I've actually airbrushed one of these dudes and cheated that way. This airbrushing is just awesome. See if I can just kind of clean up a little bit back in here. Kind of hard because this guy's hand is actually coming through here, so that's why there's this dark speck right there. It looks a little bit out of place. That's just because a dude's hand's there, so, and where his fingers are, it would actually be blocking some of the light there, so I don't know, but maybe I should just paint it. Oh, there we go. Problem solved. I think that's good enough. We don't need to fuss with that one too much. Alrighty. Good enough. That is the word, that's the phrase of the night. When you're painting miniatures that you just really want for tabletop use, that's really kind of the bread and butter you should live by, is good enough. Alrighty, I'm gonna take a big old swig here of my Coca-Cola. Now, with a little bit of a dry brush job, I'm gonna go ahead and grab, this is Desert Yellow. Pardon me. I'm just gonna throw this onto my wet palette because whatever, I'm gonna be throwing this palette paper out anyways. This is just Paper Chef unbleached, non-waxed parchment paper. And this is like my preferred thing of choice when it comes to wet palette paper. I know there are, like, Red Grass has some pretty decent palette paper. I'm cheap, so this is a Stay Wet palette, just in case you're curious. Just, I'm not worried about having like super smooth gradients, so I'm getting my excess off on the paper towel rather than like a texture palette. Go ahead and so we'll zoom in again. Yes, here. Kind of doing all over. I'm trying not to hit the miniatures. Trying to be really careful of that. So I don't want to like wipe a bunch of this across their leg or something. Also don't want to bang them up with the ferrule of this. That wouldn't be good. Like chipping paint, and you know, these aren't exactly the most durable thing. They're not like super fragile by any means for being 3D prints, but they're also not super durable either. Add a little bit more brush. So White Fox SG, those look great. What infantry model are those? So the ones I was just dry brushing, these are Wake's Emporium Assyrian Atmospheric Drop Troopers. The ones that I'm about to do, these are modern infantry from IG Makes. And then the Dune Buggy infantry that I have are also from IG Makes. These guys are much more fragile because they're pretty skinny. The other miniatures are a little bit chunky for the infantry. Like they almost look like chibi infantry, just that scale. They're pretty thick. Yeah, if you just compare the two here, you can just see the thickness difference. Witness the thickness of these dudes. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead and grab just a little bit more of this desert yellow, rehydrate my brush with some paint. These guys up. It's just some more of the modern infantry. This is the one with the radio. Good enough. I'm going to go back in with some brighter khaki to hit a lot of these and just brighten them up just a little bit. I kind of want to hit with this mid-tone desert yellow first, just because it's, I don't know, I like layering lots of different organic colors. I just find it makes things look a little bit more natural and realistic, rather than just having like a base color and then doing a single color of dry brush. Like I've got 3 different colors on the actual base coat, and then 2 different dry brush colors. Just adds a lot of variation. We're going to do the Atlas as well here. As I was saying earlier, once I finish this up and we paint the base rims black, I just got to varnish these, and then I'll do some basic flocking and adding some grass tufts from Gamer's Grass and Woodland Scenics, a couple other things, but these bases on all these miniatures just have sand glued to them. In case you're wondering, just use like watered down Mod Podge to fix all the sand in place. Yeah, sand from a local beach. Yeah, I like them. You can put some actual detail on them from White Fox SG. Yeah, the Wake's Emporium stuff is really nice. The little thick boys, they got plenty of detail. I'm assuming that's what you were talking about. Anyways. If you'll notice, these are on slightly larger bases, and that's just because of staging. I just felt they looked better on these bases. They looked a little bit crowded on the standard hex bases. These are 40 mil bases. Getting tires and stuff. Just got the one more dude here. Almost down to the last little bit of the desert yellow on my palette, so that actually works out. I'm not really wasting paint here. It's always a shame when you put like a drop of paint down and you literally just use like the tiniest bit on your brush for your project, and you don't, like, you end up wasting like literally like, you know, like a quarter of a milliliter of paint. You're just like, oh man. Might not even be that. It might be like an 1/8 of a milliliter. I don't even know how much is in a single drop of paint out of one of these dropper bottles. If you know, drop it in the chat. Do I play on the larger hex maps? I actually don't play on hex maps. I'm a filthy casual who plays Alpha Strike. I also enjoy the homebrew system that Death from Above Wargaming uses called Battletech Override. uses the Destiny, like the MechWarrior Destiny combat system, or at least aspects of it, along with some aspects of Alpha Strike and Classic, in a like very well formatted way that just plays very quickly, but is still super cinematic in the manner that I understand Classic to be. I've sat in and watched Classic games. I've never played it myself. I would be interested just to do like a 1v1 mech duel or something like that, but my wife is the only person I play with. She enjoys Alpha Strike quite a bit. We've done numerous campaigns and stuff like that, but we've also done some games of Override, and she enjoys that as well quite a bit. But yeah, when we took a look at Classic, she didn't seem too thrilled by it. Just a lot, I don't know, more math involved, not like a crazy amount, but we enjoyed playing with, like, you know, 4 to 6 miniatures at any given time, if not more. So like, I like doing like 2 versus 2 lances kind of thing. Just a little bit of this. So as you can see, this khaki that I'm putting on is quite a bit brighter. I gotta make sure I don't cover the entire base with it. I only want to cover parts. Whoops. Got to think of Classic as the more RPG campaign game mode. Yeah, for sure, definitely, rather than competitive or large scale like Alpha Strike. I don't really like. I mean, I've done. I played a competitive Alpha Strike tournament, like the BattleTech Championship circuit, run by Catalyst Game Labs at Gen Con last year. I just did it because I've never played in a wargaming tournament as an adult. I guess I kind of played in cliques tournaments as a kid. But I don't know. Those were a bit different. Not really tournaments. They're just like local pickup tournaments on Sundays. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, it was like my first event as an adult doing this. So I figured, I go play. But I prefer just casual games, like narrative style games. I enjoy the campaign play for that. Like, having a force, like a set force that you're working from. It's pretty fun. Battlefield support also brings vehicles and turrets to Classic in an easy way. A lot of people in Oklahoma will play on larger hexes with terrain. I think they're 1.75. Yeah, 1.75 is about 40 mil. And that's kind of like what I would prefer to play on. I have a pretty big mix of terrain. I have some hex terrain as well as non-hex terrain. So that would probably make things a little bit interesting. Alrighty, we're going to do the fun part of any miniature painting, which is painting the rims black, because that basically means you're done painting, right? Start with the Atlas. I'm going to go ahead and throw this up on the post, or the handle. In my head, I'm going to go ahead and grab a chisel brush. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the number two brush. Not my detailing brush, though. It's one of my old detailing brushes, part of my hair. I'm going to go ahead and grab my ink. I like using the ink for this. It has really good coverage, and it tends to stain things black. Usually in one pass, but for sure in 2 passes. I won't have to worry about any like green stuff showing through. It's trying not to load on too much so it dries quickly. I like doing it like this, where I kind of stick the base edge off my handle. I can do this because this is a magnetic painting handle, and I just always glue something magnetic, either washers or an actual magnet, into the bottom of my bases. rotate it like so. I like doing it like this just because it kind of helps me avoid like having messy base rims, like along the where the transition is between the base rim and the terrain on the base. This might look very silly to a number of people, and I totally understand if it does. I'm sure there's just better, easier ways to paint the base rims. This is a slop it up brush, so I'm definitely letting a lot of paint / ink go up into my ferrule on this. I'm just going to rinse this off pretty quick after, so. I'm just going to add a little bit more to my brush here. Bit of a heavier coat. Don't want too much of that staying on there. Bit of a big glob, and just pulling that off there. Rinse off my brush. Okay, I'm gonna pop these guys off. That's the nice thing with the magnetic painting handle, is I can just use a tiny little magnet like that, and it holds these plastic miniatures on really easily. Don't need a lot. Pretty sure the Atlas just has 2 magnets in its base, and it's just a Catalyst Game Labs plastic miniature. So the 40mm bases that I have, those are Litco plywood hex bases, and they have magnetic stickers on the bottom, like heavy-duty magnetic stickers, and they actually work well enough to have Ironwind Metals pewter miniatures stick to this base, surprisingly. There's definitely some miniatures like Assaults where like it's kind of sketchy, so I will use a little bit of sticky tack as well. But on a lot of the smaller ones, still strong enough. Blowing on the base rim because I had a few bubbles there. Like a speck of probably dry pigment or something sitting on there as well. I'm gonna have to quickly come back across these base rims afterwards just to touch them up. I'm just gonna work across them quickly. Are these custom printed infantry? I guess, kind of, yes. These are from Ig Makes on, like, he's got a page on Facebook. He's also got one on Instagram. But he has a My Mini Factory page and sells files, also as well as physical prints. He sent me a massive like sample pack about a year ago of just like tons of infantry vehicles, like ground vehicles, helicopters, planes, things like that. Just like a lot of, I guess, like generic or agnostic stuff that's not like particular to any specific IP. So you can pretty much use any of it in like BattleTech or any like futuristic war game that's played in the sci-fi realm at 6mm scale. He's got some like 10mm scale as well, stuff, fairly certain. Yeah, he's got plenty of like cool support vehicles, and I like some of his helicopters and stuff. He sent me a couple of those. I'm pretty stoked on those. Like, probably do some like uh, infantry repelling from one of them or whatever, because a couple of them are troop transports, and there's actually like little dudes kind of like these that can sit on the deck of the helicopter with their legs hanging out. It's kind of cool. Really really cool ambiance to them. So this has one of those magnetic stickers stuck to the bottom. Does a really good job at keeping them stuck. I used to use like a magnetic, like a homemade magnetic storage and transport for all this stuff, but I eventually just ended up getting felled hair foam for all my miniatures. I just find it easier, a little bit more safe too. I find sometimes, having all these in a case where they're magnetized to the bottom, if the case spills over and hits the ground hard enough, those miniatures are going to go flying anyways. So just a little bit of extra assurance having them inside the foam. Almost there. Take these guys off, and I just got this one last one. And I'll quickly go through and touch up the rest of the base rims again. Take like 5 minutes at most. Then we are done. Really like how the headlights turned out on the little dune buggies here. It's like kind of a weird little detail to focus on, but I don't know. I think the headlights are a cool touch, personally. Yes, Ig makes purchase from them before. I've only seen their renders, but they look awesome. Yeah, they're pretty good. He's got some pretty good quality prints, not gonna lie. Rinsing out my brush. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and set this down. I'm gonna quickly go through these and just do quick touch-ups along with base rims. Really fast. Just on some areas that I can see, like, I'm just gonna basically do like a second really quick thin coat. So there's just a couple areas that aren't quite completely black. It's done. Boom. This dude. Sometimes it's hard to tell with these two because the ink isn't like a perfect matte finish. It's got a little bit of satin-ness to it, and because it's still drying here a little bit in some areas it hasn't cured. It's hard to tell whether or not it's actually pigmented everything black properly. So I usually just go over with a second coat to be on the safe side. It usually is pretty good to go on the first pass, but just in case. And then once I varnish these, I'll hit them with like satin varnish just to protect them. And then I will hit them with ultra matte to kill all the shine, make them nice and flat looking. Just in terms of like light reflection, that way the actual painted highlights and everything will really show a lot better. And then these base rims will look nice and flat and even, and won't look like there's any areas that weren't painted evenly. Going on with like the thinnest possible layer because I want this to dry relatively quickly. Also trying to be very gentle when I pluck these guys off because I don't want to break the infantry by squeezing them too much. As you can see, I'm moving very quickly because I've already kind of established like very firm bordering on these base rims. So I'm just looking to kind of fill like the 90% solution on them. Don't need to fill them perfectly evenly. So you're basically good to go. About there. One last push on these dudes. Really trying to make sure I finish as close to 10:30 as I can here. Not that I'll like get in trouble if I'm up too late or something. God, Mom, leave me alone. But just have other things I got to do, and then I got to go to bed and get a good night's sleep because I'm going to be on duty tomorrow. Hooray for a 24-hour duty. It'll be pretty easy though. I'm going to be working on. I've basically been printing a bunch of BattleTech override. Record sheet / cards, as well as BattleTech Alpha Strike cards on like really like fairly thick photo paper, and then cutting them out to size and putting them in like little protectors. That way I can just have my library of all my cards and just use like dry erase markers on them. They look nice, glossy, all that good shit. Alrighty, we're done. We finished these. I'm gonna move them out into the open here, but like we're done. These guys, they will get varnished off camera, of course, and then I will be adding some like flocking and stuff to them. These over just so folks can take a look at them. This overhead look rather. Canopy turned out really well on the Alice here. Makes it look like eyes. The pale horse. Betty. Boom. I think all those infantry look pretty good. The battle armor looked great. All the infantry. Little Doom Buggy dudes. You know, just a few details on everything. Kind of makes them stand out a little bit more. Alrighty. I'm going to hop over to my desktop, close this thing out, and then off camera I'm going to go ahead and clean up my brushes and put all this stuff away. Okie dokie. So that was a pretty good stream, nice little 3-hour stream on Sunday night. We've been on for like exactly 3 hours now, basically 3 hours and 5 minutes technically, because of the pre-starter of 5 minutes to run up to the actual start of the show, just to work out any kinks. Anyways, I'm rambling. I'm tired. Time for me to go to bed. It's Monday tomorrow. Don't let the work week get you folks down. Hope you guys have a good time throughout the week. I will be on again next Saturday at 7:30 for 4 hours, going until 11:30. Don't know what we're going to paint yet. I'm going to figure that out throughout the week. Stay tuned for some stuff on my social media regarding that. Have a good night, folks. My name is Zach, also known as Arclight Miniatures. If you've been watching my happy little painting session, this was part 2 of the Pale Horse Rides. Eridani Light Horse are almost complete, and I can move on to other big armies that I have planned. Top of the evening to you. Have a good night, folks.